True dominance isn't in what you reveal, it's in what you refuse to show. Machiavelli, the most feared and studied thinker of power, proved that what you withhold creates more control than what you display. For generations, leaders relied on his wisdom to rule. In this video, you'll see how to apply his hidden law of the void in your own life. In a world where everyone shouts to be understood, silence becomes obsession. Absence turns into presence. What you withhold draws others closer, because people aren't attracted to what's predictable, they crave what they can't decode. When you deny attention, emotion, or identity, you create a vacuum. And humans are wired to fill it. They hate the unknown, yet can't resist it. So when you give nothing, they lean in, ask more, chase more, offer more, just to define you. This is where power begins. Not when you declare yourself, but when others declare for you. Speak, and they judge. Stay silent, and they guess, and in guessing, they expose more than you ever would. That is Machiavelli's law of the void. You win not by entering the fight, but by refusing to appear, and still, they lose. Most people overshare, believing that visibility equals respect. Yet the more you reveal, the more you're boxed in, and the less you're valued. What's always available is never feared or desired, it becomes background noise. But when you become nothing, you become everything, the question no one can answer, the presence that lowers voices in a crowded room. This is not passivity, it's weaponized emptiness. You withdraw not from insecurity, but from strategy, because silence builds altitude, ambiguity fuels obsession, and being unknown is the highest leverage. History proves it, Marcus Aurelius enduring collapse without complaint, Genghis Khan withholding mercy before destruction, Machiavelli himself shaping nations in exile. Those who revealed least, shaped the most. Even nature obeys this law, the black hole consumes galaxies not with light, but with gravity. The ocean's power comes not from noise, but from depth, mystery, and refusal to be contained. When you become the void, you move the same way, still, quiet, heavy with meaning. Others feel it even if they can't explain it. They sense your restraint, your detachment, your control. That unreachable energy is magnetic. The most dangerous man isn't the one who speaks, but the one who watches. Not the one who seeks, but the one who withholds. He doesn't react, doesn't chase, doesn't perform. And because of that, everyone around him becomes reactive, desperate, performative, trying to draw him out. Yet he remains still. And in that stillness, he controls the room. Understand this, the void makes people confess. When you're silent, they talk more. When you're cold, they offer warmth. When you withhold, they overshare. And everything they give to fill your nothingness is surrendered power. That's why you must never rush to be known, never fight to be understood, never give them your full shape. Blur the edges. Let them chase. And the more they chase, the more they obey. The modern world punishes mystery, it wants you loud, exposed, transparent. But that's because it fears silence. It fears the man who doesn't need to be known, because he cannot be controlled, framed, or tamed. The man who becomes the void doesn't just escape judgment. He becomes the judge, while everyone else dances for attention, and he isn't even clapping. Train yourself in this. At first, it feels unnatural, you'll want to explain, defend, reveal. Don't. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be felt. The less you give, the more they feel. Every silence becomes a hook, every delay an investment, every restraint a signal of weight. Soon, you're not just a man, you're a force. And here's the truth, the void is not emptiness, it's discipline. It's control. You feel everything but reveal almost nothing. You calculate before you speak, delay before you act, and never show your hand until the game is already yours. That's why you become untouchable, not by fighting harder, but by refusing to play their game. When attacked, you offer nothing. When demanded, you offer nothing. When begged, you offer nothing. Because the moment you offer something, you step into their frame and lose. But when you remain the void, they bend themselves around you. That is Machiavelli's law of the void. It isn't just a tactic, it becomes who you are. The man who withholds is the man they overpay, giving everything for almost nothing. Power comes from restraint, not excess. When you reveal less, each word, glance, or movement gains weight. Rarity turns ordinary signals into gold. In a noisy world, what is scarce feels divine. Most men waste themselves, talking too much, reacting too fast, exposing too soon. Every disclosure is a trade, and most trades lose. The more you reveal, the easier you are to measure. The easier to measure, the easier to control. And once they control you, you lose value. That's why the void is feared. It cannot be measured. It absorbs, it watches, it waits, and in waiting grows heavier. In any negotiation, silence wins. One man talks to fill the gap, the other sits calm, unreadable. And the talker exposes himself. That is the trap of the void, control through stillness. The Machiavellian man trains for this, face unreadable, voice measured, energy restrained. Not from suppression, but from discipline. Expression is power, and power must be spent carefully. To reveal nothing is to make others bring their offerings to you. This isn't emotional emptiness, but strategic emptiness, to feel much and show little. That's why people sense the fire in your eyes but can't tell what it burns for. Mystery draws them in, not what you reveal, but what you refuse to. And in relationships, the same law holds. Most reveal too much too soon, hoping it creates intimacy. But it only creates familiarity. And familiarity kills mystery. The one who gives too much is loved for convenience, never for power. But when you give nothing, no validation, no explanations, no need to be understood, you become magnetic. People lean in, searching for meaning. They project depth onto your silence, complexity onto your restraint. And in that projection, they create your legend. Here's the truth few admit: people don't fall in love with you, but with what they imagine you to be. The less you reveal, the more space they have to invent. If you want to be remembered, don't explain yourself. Let them wonder. Let them obsess. That's how you haunt them long after you're gone. Even enemies collapse under this law. A man who insults you expects reaction. If you respond, even in fury, you confirm his relevance. But if you remain still, blank, unbothered, you deny him everything. And doubt takes root. Did I miss? Did he not care? Did I even matter? You don't crush him with force, you unravel him with emptiness. Machiavelli understood this in politics. He warned rulers, better feared than loved, but above all, remain mysterious. The prince who reveals everything invites betrayal. The one who speaks little, acts unpredictably, reveals only what's needed, he becomes a legend. People whisper, speculate, invent myths larger than truth. That is the void, people fill it with their own meaning. And the law is deadliest when paired with presence. If you are nothing and look like nothing, you vanish. But if you are nothing and look like power, confidence, danger, you become unforgettable. Cold eyes and a calm face, silence that radiates gravity, composure that bends the room. You don't prove your worth, you embody it. Your first weapon is silence. Not a trick, but a test. Say less in meetings. Respond slower. Withhold emotion when confronted. Watch as people stumble to fill the gap. They'll overshare, overcommit, reveal more than intended. And you won't lift a finger. Because when you are the void, the world reacts to you. That is the ultimate advantage. You set the tempo. You dictate rhythm. You create discomfort by simply existing. Most people need to be seen, you don't. They need to be liked, you don't. They need to be understood, you don't. And that refusal is what makes you untouchable. You become powerful precisely because you don't. Refusing to join their emotional economy makes you rich in influence. They give, they chase, they open, and you've given them nothing. Not from withholding, but from being the void. And in the void there is no need, only gravity. And gravity pulls without effort. This is Machiavelli's law most men never master, because it demands stillness, composure, the strength to not perform. But once you do, you never chase again. Silence is not absence but dominance. Expression is not power, containment is. The less you give, the more you're pursued. Not from kindness, but from their addiction to the unknown. Curiosity is the sharpest lever in human psychology. When you offer nothing, you become its source. Not through tricks or seduction, but by refusing to fill the blanks. You're not unpredictable by design, you're unpredictable because you leave nothing to predict. No rhythm, no trail, no pattern. You become the blank page that drives them insane. That is the paradox of the void. The less you give, the more they invest. They pour in hopes, fears, fantasies, building a version of you larger than the truth. And you remain calm, still, unreadable. Now, apply this to everyday power. Rooms full of people proving themselves, status, charm, intellect. They posture. They signal. But imagine the man who sits silent, unshaken. His eyes don't dart. He doesn't laugh to fit in. He doesn't interrupt. He doesn't chase the spotlight, he becomes it. Not for what he does, but for what he refuses to do. That's the essence of the void. It isn't passive, it's threatening. It implies control, of self, of impulse, of narrative. And the man who commands himself will always end up commanding others. Machiavelli would say, if you must reveal, let it be just enough to create uncertainty. Say something cryptic and walk away. Smile without context. Withhold praise. Delay your answers. Keep them guessing, because guessing is submission. When they're guessing, they stop thinking about themselves and step into your frame. The void doesn't ask for loyalty, it creates it. It doesn't seek validation, it reverses it. It doesn't move forward to be welcomed, it waits, making others wonder if they even deserve its presence. This is psychological warfare, subtle, elegant, devastating. Now look at relationships through this lens. Most believe connection requires expression. And yes, eventually it does, but the highest value people reveal slowly. They delay intimacy, filter relentlessly, test with silence. The real stay curious, the fake grow resentful. In this way, the void becomes not just control, but selection. You stop wasting time. You stop chasing to prove your worth. You stop performing for shallow affection. You wait, and the world sorts itself. Those who can't handle your silence could never handle your truth. Those who hate your distance would collapse under your closeness. Those who walk away when you offer nothing would have drained you when you gave everything. The void protects you, not by closing doors, but by letting the wrong people remove themselves. This is where you rise into emotional minimalism. Fewer explanations, fewer apologies, fewer words. And because you stay silent 90% of the time, the 10% you do speak reshapes the room. Every word lands heavier, lasts longer, carries weight, because you speak only when you've already won. Let's be clear, this way of being isn't natural, it's forged. You must kill the part that begs, explains, and proves. Suffocate the part that feels empty in silence. Bury the instinct to be liked. And what rises from that grave is a version of you that no longer moves for affection, but attracts it anyway. This is the Machiavellian void. Not emptiness, but dominance through absence. Not silence as passivity, but silence as tension. You are the unsaid sentence, the unfought battle, the unseen threat. And it drives people mad, because they cannot possess what they cannot define. You stop offering anything, no opinion, no emotion, no access. And because of that, they offer you everything, desperate for whatever you might reveal. You wait. And when you finally give, even scraps feel like gold. This isn't manipulation. It's architecture, demand built through discipline, attention shaped by absence, perception controlled through restraint. At the highest level of power, it's not what you say that moves people, it's what you withhold. In time, the void stops being a tactic and becomes identity. Restraint no longer feels forced, silence becomes natural. That's when it turns lethal, because no one can tell if you're holding back, or if unknowability is simply who you are. And that uncertainty pulls people in like gravity. They don't know your thoughts, but they feel your presence, whether you're silent, absent, or still. And it drives them mad in the most addictive way possible. This is how kings are made. When the world realizes it cannot read you, it starts to serve you, to guess your motives, to win your silence, not because you demanded it, but because you never asked. The void becomes a throne, and people kneel before it, afraid of what you'll say when you finally speak, or worse, what it means if you never do. Now, make this practical. Most people waste energy filling space, joking, over-explaining, smoothing tension. You don't. You let silence speak. You let discomfort build. You let others stumble into exposure. Silence, for you, isn't emptiness, it's a weapon. Every word you don't say makes them talk more. Every glance you withhold makes them crave it. Every unanswered question grows louder in their minds. And in that desperation, you gain strength. By being less available, you become more powerful, not just in attention, but in emotion, validation, even access. Machiavelli knew this well. He warned that a prince should never reveal all his thoughts. It is not necessary to be honest, he wrote, only to appear honest. Because once your mind is predictable, it is controllable. The void cannot be predicted or controlled. It isn't a man you understand, it's a man you feel. And once you become that man, people stop treating you casually. They hesitate before texting, rehearse before calling, ask themselves, did I do something wrong? Even though you said nothing. Why? Because the economy has flipped. You no longer buy attention, you are the currency. Your time is earned, your thoughts waited for, your energy paid for with respect and effort. And if they don't give that, you remain silent, unshaken. You don't punish by reacting, you punish by refusing to react. Your absence does the talking. And that absence burns them, because it reveals the truth, they were never in control. You were, because you needed nothing, and they needed everything. That is the final form of power. The man who offers nothing is never owned, never guilt, never forced, he is already full within himself. So when others beg for access, he grants it rarely. When they crave validation, he withholds it, not from cruelty, but because it's scarce. And when he finally gives, a glance, a word, a moment, it feels like gold. Not because it shines, but because it's rare. This is asymmetrical value, giving almost nothing, yet receiving everything. While the masses perform and clamor for attention, the man who becomes the void becomes the stage, and the world performs for him. At its highest level, the void is not strategy but identity, forged by fire. You didn't choose it for effect, you were forced to the edge, and instead of falling, you erased the part that needed to be understood, validated, seen. What remained was stillness, but not emptiness. The void is full of control, vision, and self-possession. Power without noise. Command without movement. Presence without explanation. Most fear being ignored. The Machiavellian man builds empires on it. Because when you give nothing, no approval, no neediness, no energy, the world is forced to orbit you. That's the secret rulers and icons have always known. The less you give, the more they need. People will give you everything, for a glance, a word, a moment, because they can't control what they can't predict. That's the gravity of the void. You don't chase, yet you're chased. You don't demand, yet you're obeyed. You already hold what everyone else is selling, inner stability. In a world addicted to noise, your silence becomes sacred. Leave a room and your name stays. Say nothing, intention speaks louder than words. Offer nothing, and you receive more than those who beg to be seen. This is how kings rule. Not with noise or desperation, but with silence, composure, and boundaries mistaken for walls. Only those who can withstand your distance deserve your presence. The rest remove themselves. Because scarcity creates value. When you give less, everything you do give feels earned, every glance, every reply, even your absence. That's why the void is irresistible. They know you're watching, but you move only when you choose, and that choice makes you untouchable. And when you finally choose to act, every eye is on you, every word carries weight, every move gives you complete leverage. Because they know you could have dismissed them. They know you have no need for them. And it is precisely that truth that makes them hand over their soul. This is the final layer. You've become the immovable force. Not out of stubbornness, but from completeness, complete in direction, in presence, in power. And in that fullness, you give the world nothing. No explanations. No hunger. No desperation. In return, they surrender everything they once guarded: respect, loyalty, obsession, obedience. Because now they feel it. They sense what you are. You are the man who does not react. The man who cannot be pushed. The man who never begs. This is the Machiavellian void, one law among many. And if you want to master the full architecture of dominance, explore the playlist Machiavelli on Power as Design. You are the void. And the void always wins.